Sure list.
So Steve, it's, these are accessory structures in the village that are not garages or barns?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's an extra accessory structure on the property beyond a garage, beyond a separate garage.
I'm just asking if you're, where you're putting barns.
Oh, I think let's get to this.
Yeah, why don't we have
Open the
a
meeting
discussion
first.
after we open the.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Well, let's make a motion to open the meeting.
Second.
So moved.
Roll call. Man,
I didn't know if that was a motion, you said let's make a motion.
okay, I'll make a motion to open the meeting. I think Susan seconded
Thank
it.
you, both. Member Shannon?
Aye.
Member Loda?
Aye.
Member Hoffman?
Aye.
Member Wilks?
Aye.
Chair Leistra?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so we have a continuation of 21 East Jefferson Circle. We have area variance applications from them for lot coverage and the size of an accessory building. And we discussed this last month, heard some preliminary information, and we're carried it over till today, left the public hearing open. So my expectation is we'd like to hear from the applicant again, so that's my plans, and hear what updates you have for us. And sounds like there's some new information. The other, after that, we're going to solicit input from the public. If anyone is online, you can raise your hand and we'll make comments at that time. And if anyone's in the room, you're welcome to make comments as well. And then if we're satisfied with everything, I would expect probably quite a bit of time we'll spend discussing this and deliberating on this and try to sort out what to do with that. So we might do that for a little while tonight. But let's go ahead and you want to, I guess you had conflicts of interest disclosure first. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to disclose?
I do not.
I do not. I do not.
Me neither.
Neither.
Okay. So let's go ahead and jump right in with 21 East Jefferson Circle. So by all means, come up and let us know what updates you have. I know some of the things were you're investigating utilities and.
We're not anymore, so due to cost, basically, so.
Okay, I was wondering if that was gonna happen,
Yeah.
because I was particularly wondering how you're gonna get drainage to and from there.
Yeah,
So, okay, so basically right now you're changing it to, the shed has,
just for storage. I don't know if you've had a chance to look over anything that we dropped off, but yeah, just for storage.
well, most of the stuff wasn't much different than what we saw last time.
Yeah.
So we had a little tiny version of your drawing.
Yep, I brought this back just because I didn't really know how to get this copy for you on such a large scale, so this is our big drawing. So, I guess, do you want to look at it again?
Oh, yes, please, let's check this out. This is one of the few drawings that I have that we can readily see.
Sorry. I don't know how you want to view it, but this is our home here, right? So you're looking out towards the power lines this way, okay? So
Mhm.
shed would be placed over here, pool in between.
This is helpful for anyone. This is
So,
not over.
yeah.
This is an overhead.
Oh,
These are the
good.
property lines. This is the house. This is the garage and driveway. I only have a couple of these if anyone wants to take a look at them.
I'll take one. Share.
So we can just out with the share.
David and I will.
so and then I took some photographs
That's the only one.
of our backyard, you know, from different angles, like
Mhm.
looking out towards the power lines, looking to the left, looking to the right. So
Mhm.
you could kind of see what our situation is and that there's no real obstructions around us.
The resolution on the photos, was it the best for the packet, so we didn't include that.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see those. I've driven by, I went past the property. I see that you have, we can see from this overhead view here, which is really helpful, that you have shrubs and trees on each side of the property.
yeah,
And then it's open in the back.
yeah, I guess, whatever, if you don't have them, that was just what you're looking at, basically only from, the ground view.
Yep.
So there's nobody here on this side. This is Mike Newcomb's property over here. This is all power lines. This is Ritz Parkway. Everybody behind us has like I didn't measure, but it's a very tall stockade fence. Our neighbors over on the right here, this is their garage to the left, and this is a very thick, hedge, like just trees and brush and whatever. So, we just would like to point that out, that there's, no real obstructions around our area.
Okay. Some of the things I wanted to focus on was kind of listening to your rationale for what you're doing tonight. So, to go ahead and finish up with some of the rest of your initial presentation on what's changed. We saw this last week, and this hasn't really changed, but what's changed is you've decided not to do the utilities
Right.
to here.
Yep.
So, no electric also? or-
No. Just
Okay.
bagged it.
We decided that,
Coming to you guys, less is more, you know what I mean? Less is more.
Okay,
we
well,
decided that we need more space, like, we have a one-car garage.
We just
Yep.
cleaned out our garage.
We cleaned it out a couple of weeks ago after our meeting, and we're like, we have so much stuff in the garage, we can't even fit a car in the garage. And with our 10 by 12 shed, right now, we have our patio furniture in there, which is pretty much taking up the whole space. So we want a bigger shed. Originally, we thought we could do a lot with it, but really, we need it just for space.
I mean, unless we're gonna go bigger, but we don't wanna go any bigger.
And I'd like to get a car back in my garage if I could.
I hear you on there. This is some of the things I wanted to hear what you're trying to solve here.
Yeah,
What
so
you're
realistically, we decided that it's more important for storage than anything else. Just so we could have some peace of mind and be able to get in our garage and, put everything into storage. And then once we get a pool and we have patio furniture for the pool and other stuff that we're gonna have to put in, then we're not gonna have any space for anything.
Okay, and then I also see in your
Our
information
pipe was,
you sent,
to have
Yeah, we had a lot of
backyard
stuff that
oasis
came in.
that turned into a reality of we need some space
Okay.
to put stuff.
Still looks like a backyard.
Oh, it is, it's
Yeah.
definitely gonna be good, but we were going for the whole.
But we were like,
We were going for the whole
Yeah.
thing. And that's just not gonna work out for us.
okay, so right now, I know you have a one-car garage.
Yes,
Okay, and I was looking at this a fair amount today. So you have a one-car garage. It's only about 15 feet from the property line.
Yep.
And I noted your garage, and I talked to Steve about this earlier, it's about 14 by 22 feet. 14 feet isn't particularly wide, so you don't have you don't really have room. If a car is in there, you don't have room to store stuff on the
no,
side.
we have two kids. We've got bikes, snow blowers in there, shelving
I get it.
units. It's chaos.
not much.
But I'm just looking at this. Your desire is for more storage. You don't have room to expand this garage to where it's really situated on the lot. You couldn't really make it wider without getting it close to the property line and getting a setback. Unusually, you can't make it deeper either because it's at an angle to the property line.
Yeah.
And going further forward would not be good architecturally because it would just
No.
poke way forward from the house.
Yeah,
So, so I'm looking at that, I'm just trying to understand your
Yeah.
situation here with this house. You can't really expand your garage for storage, and so you're proposing a shed to meet your storage needs.
yeah.
Okay,
And so this existing one would be not there, obviously, anymore, just so you guys know
yeah, so you're
that.
gonna have one
Yeah,
shed
should
in
be
the backyard.
one, in this area, 4 feet from the back,
Okay,
4 feet from the line.
And that's this.
Yeah, this one won't be there. This is our existing one. Yep,
So the existing shed is
Well,
being removed,
yes.
anything that's in there will then go into
Yeah,
the new
right,
shed,
yes.
plus the
Yes.
new pool.
Right. Yeah, just the
Stuff.
pool
Sure.
stuff and, the,
Because we're gonna have the pump and I don't know if that's gonna go in or out. We'd like to probably have it in, but I don't think it's gonna be feasible because it would probably take up too much space too.
yeah, I was wondering
I can
about
tell you
that.
that from experience.
oh, you
So
know,
do you
yeah.
have a-
I called and found out, he said it's about 24 square feet. You need about 6 by 4.
I was just looking at that, And I don't know what your situation is, but some people I've seen, they'll just take some of their pool equipment and just put them in like a little
Yeah.
enclosed thing. Other
Okay.
people might want to put them in a building.
Okay.
I was
Doesn't
just,
like, well, yeah, size-wise, I know it's deceiving, but, okay.
I'm not sure what your situation is. I was just trying to see what's commonly
Take a
kind of
peek.
done.
Yeah.
Surrounding.
It's something to make it, if it's gonna be out, something like to make it kind of,
Yeah, so it's either gonna be in the shed or
Yeah.
out of the shed, okay.
Right. I mean, it's gonna be behind.
my thought was
That's great. I
in,
like
but,
that. Yeah, I mean, that could be good. I mean, either way, it would, I mean, we still need a lot. I mean, it's just with our small garage.
Let other people-
We tried to buy the property next door, but we didn't want so. We were figuring maybe we'd make a bigger garage there, so since we had the property next to us, but he's holding on to that. He's had it for 50 years, and
Yeah.
he might develop it one day.
I said, well, let us know, someday, but at this point.
And it's hard to tell with the overhead, but the shrubbery next to that vacant,
The shrubbery,
Lot.
yeah,
is that,
let me,
are
do
those
you still
trees
have
or are those?
pictures, or did you,
Yeah.
can we bring them out?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Are those
Or I can get my
trees
phone.
or are those kind of like
Here?
low shrubs?
Right here, these are
There's two big
trees.
trees, and then there's some shrubs. So he just did some tree work last year, so I don't know exactly. Because we had a dead tree that was.
I asked him
coming
to,
over
because
every
there
yard.
was one leaning tower of Pisa, and
Yeah,
we've
and
been
it was
there
totally
however many
rotted.
years, and it just kept, and it's completely rotted, and
Yeah,
it was
one of those in my
over the
backyard.
So
shed,
he was only gonna take that one out, and then the guy that did the tree work took a couple other trees out. But there's still.
which
Yeah,
all
once the
needed
summer
it, it
kicks
was,
in,
Okay,
there's a good amount of cover.
okay.
It's just right now, it's a little whimsical because it's.
Winter. What
The other
else?
side's got a lot of cover too, for our neighbors.
Okay, so right now, when we saw this before, you were talking about using part of the shed for living space, possibly have some kitchen equipment in there or something
Well,
like
I
that.
mean, at
And
this point, yeah,
right now, it's just a
yeah,
shed.
yeah,
Just a shed.
yeah.
Thank you. That's the backyard.
I just took them from my phone and printed them, so. All right, Justin. Okay, so this is the view from my backyard, looking to the, like, if you're, looking out at the power lines from my patio, this is looking to the right at my
Yeah, that's
neighbors.
like Ritz Parkway.
They
where all
have
houses
the
are,
one-car
there's the fences.
garage closest to our
And then that's
property.
another
And
house that's
so,
kinda
again,
close
this
to
is
this. Just
winter
build that
time, but
fence.
it's
That's a
pretty
little bit
solid brush.
Trying to see if we have any other pictures. No, and then that would be the picture.
Slow down there.
That's.
Oh,
the
that's
shed.
looking
That's-
towards
Yeah. Yep.
Jefferson,
So it's still got a couple big
and
trees
that's the vacant
here.
lot, right
Yeah.
there. Okay.
No, I drove by there this afternoon.
And this is looking at my neighbors from, if you're looking towards the power lines to the right, that's my neighbor with the one-car garage. Okay, that's the side. Okay.
Okay.
What else? So I gave you pictures of the property, the backyard and the power lines. Okay, so you want to talk about the other examples of larger sheds? Do you want to
Yeah,
move
I
on to
mean, that
that
was
or
the
not
question we
yet?
had, we were wondering, is this like a new precedent thing, or is this something that actually currently exists in some properties in the village? That was something
Okay.
I was wondering.
Okay, yeah, you had asked us to like go snoop around, basically, right? So, whatever, I did, and then you guys sent me that glorious Monroe County GSI,
Yeah.
that map, and I used the tool, and I went out and measured and
So
had
you do
lots
it
of
all on your
fun.
computer, then you do
Did it
your
all at
house.
home, from home.
Yep.
So I came up with a list, and it looks like Steve has actually added to that tonight.
Okay.
So there's some that I didn't have that are on here. So do you want me to kind of, and I provided pictures of the ones that I could easily take. There's a couple that like Courtney Circle and Green Hill, I wasn't like in a comfortable space to take a picture, like physically, so.
Okay, well, I think
I don't
just being new and I had a chance to look at this, I'm not sure there's how much we could absorb from this.
Well,
right now.
I don't know if you've got the stuff that I sent in, but I had pictures and stuff, and on the backs of the pictures, I had the information of like what the measurements seemed, at least, from my measurements,
Okay.
and then the square footage. So if you guys don't have those.
I
then-
did not, that did not make it into our packet, so.
Okay,
We have this list.
that was from Steve, yeah. And then
Yeah.
I had a bunch of, pictures, whatever. And it
Okay.
had the information on the back. So I'll just verbalize it for you from
So if you want to give
my,
us a brief summary of what your
what I
observation-
encountered.
Sure.
So 6 Rand Place is, I would say across from St. Louis, roughly.
Mhm.
They have an oversized accessory structure other than a garage, measuring, according to my measurements, 14 by 18, totaling 252 square feet. So that was my first example.
Okay,
And some of these may, double with Steve's as well. 39 Courtney Circle. They have another oversized accessory structure, 12 by 21, 252 square feet.
I didn't catch that one.
Okay, you want me to say it again?
That one I didn't get.
Okay.
All of these that I did on that sheet are all done by GPS.
Okay. 15 Green Hill Lane, which is in that same kind of Courtney Circle neighborhood. 18 by 18, 324 square feet. Now, moving on to 20 Monroe Avenue, that was more like looked like a big, large barn to me, but it's 28 by 40, 1,120 square feet, but didn't have like garage doors or anything, so I don't know. That looked more like a barn. 65 Jefferson Road is across the street from the Sutherland baseball fields. It's the big white house. I know the family that used to live there. His name was Marshalls years ago, if anybody's familiar. They have a large structure, 22 by 30, so that was 660 square feet. Tell me if I'm going too fast or.
well, I'm listening here.
Okay.
So I'm jotting down notes.
Okay.
I'm keeping up.
16 Sunset Boulevard, which I had talked to Steve about this one, and he thought that they had to go by town code, this particular
Yeah, I can't remember,
home.
there's a sliver of Sunset in
So
the village.
their backyard is a sliver, but their shed is 100% in the village property.
Okay,
Okay, so, but if they have to follow town code, then this
I-
example may not apply.
well, we're just listening to see what examples you have. That's fine.
So it appears to be 14 by 22, totaling 308 square feet.
Okay,
And then there's a home right across the street from ours on South Street. It's a double. Its address is 85 and 85 and a half South Street. They have an extra garage structure on their property, 22 by 24, 528 square feet.
okay.
Okay, that's on my list. And then you want me to go
And-
through Steve's?
Yeah, Steve has another list. So all of these structures are basically, they're not garages, they're just old barns, old buildings, oversized sheds.
Yeah.
Someone built on a weekend with Steve not looking.
I guess, yeah, I don't know. They're there, though.
They're there,
They're there,
okay. So
they're there,
they've been there for a very long time. Okay.
right? And some of them have probably been there a long time, maybe even
Probably.
prior to code and such. That
That's quite
stuff you
common.
guys would have to, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite common. A lot of stuff got built before.
Steve, on this list, are these barns included as well?
No, one of the ones like it looks almost like a gazebo building with a roof, a couple of sheds. Another one's I guess the one on West Jefferson, 15 West Jefferson, 9 West Jefferson is like an outbuilding. It's not a garage, they actually converted it last year and did some work in it. They use it as a shop, and they have a barn on the property, it's a garage. Most of them are shed structures or accessory. They're no garage doors on them, other than the South Street one. They're double garage there, they're both garages, but there's 2 of them. that are basically, like you said, 20, I put it at 22 point something, square.
One of them is just used for cars, the other one's a storage unit.
There's,
for
yeah,
vehicles.
so it's a double.
Yeah,
The home is a
stuff.
double. There's one garage that has 2 garage doors.
Mhm.
And then one, and talk about like character or whatever, like, doesn't look very good. It just doesn't, like, you wanted to talk about character. So I'm like, well, that one is just,
Literally across the street from their house.
Yeah.
and it's really not pretty.
Okay.
And then you've got this other random large accessory structure facing, the garage doors is facing towards the road, whereas the other ones are facing, the other way. So looks like a total add-on, but they didn't really think it through.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
There's,
As far
yeah,
as looks.
there's lots of quirky
Right,
buildings and structures
right,
in that
Especially
village.
on the district.
Right. So that's that. So that's that part. And then I gave you the digital renderings of the angles of the shed, which is the color, and that's my to scale.
Okay,
And the
so you
height of
said-
the shed is 10 feet 9.
Okay.
Okay, at the
So,
peak.
Steve, that complies with code, correct?
Which,
The height.
Yeah.
I think it was 14 feet is the limit.
yeah,
Until we-
12 is the
I thought
limit, but they have to do a 10, 12 roof on it to even come close.
Okay. So anyway, no concerns about the height. Okay, we'll leave that in Steve's camp.
Okay.
So that's,
Steve's camp.
well, he has to approve all your
Yeah,
building
right.
plans, so.
Right.
There are some things we'll look at, and then some things that are all Steve.
Okay.
So,
So these are the renderings, and actually, very similar to that picture I showed you last time I was here. I'd be happy to pull out my phone and show you 16 Sunset. It's probably the same color and the same, really the same look. So I just gotta see what I can find.
They don't worry about color and things.
Okay. Oh, right, that's probably more the historic, or, okay.
yeah, I guess, well, we could chat about this briefly, but
Thank you.
is everyone generally amenable to letting the architectural review board work out the architectural details?
Yes.
That was what we usually do, and that would be my plan. Okay. So if we give an approval, my guess is we'll make it contingent on the architectural board reviewing it, and we'll let them deal with it. They're better trained in that. So the only thing that's helpful to know is if they're actually reviewing it, and Steve said they are. Is that correct, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay. So good.
Do you guys want to see or no? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
something like,
Kind of like you just shrunk the house.
Right. Just to give you like an idea of kind of,
That's lovely.
Just a random
Did you catch
question.
it? It was like.
So
What is that?
that is gonna be
Oh.
like an opening, so like. if-
Oh, for the
but
bar,
Ron's
kind of
not
like,
gonna be there.
okay.
Yep,
So
big
it's
plans.
Flat.
Yeah.
That was the big plan. That's
Gotcha.
when we had the grand plan of, having plumbing and electrical and everything else to go with it.
Gotcha.
So
So
now
probably-
all the rugrats are gonna have to come through the house.
Yeah. Or find a nice something behind the shed. So that's all I pretty much had on my thing here,
Okay, well, thank you. I was not expecting the exhaustive list of
stuff.
all the other properties. I appreciate it, though.
Okay.
Because it's nice to know that this isn't a brand-new thing
Right.
that the village has seen for the first time.
Right.
So that, I find that very helpful, so thank you
Okay,
for
yeah,
working
there's
on it.
kind of a lot when you got right down to it.
Yeah, I mean, your list is, between you and Steve, that's something like 15 properties or something like that?
16.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess let's see if we have any public comments.
No one online.
So there's no one online and there's nobody here. Okay, well, I guess I'll go through the exercise then of at least opening the public, we have a public hearing for the second application, because we have two variances
Right.
now. So I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the second area variance for the size of the accessory building.
Second.
Member Rhoda?
Aye.
Member Wilks?
Aye.
Member Halpin?
Aye.
Member Joanne?
Aye.
Shannon? Thank you. Chair Ristra?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. So anyone here like to make a comment? Okay. And nobody is online.
No one is online.
And we heard some comments last week. There was a neighbor there and Jim, I think it's in our, some of our minutes, but he didn't have any concerns or complaints,
No.
so.
I think he came primarily to talk about drainage, I think.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
talked,
We don't have problems with drainage over there.
Yeah.
yeah, and,
That was like his big thing that he kind of wanted to share,
yeah, okay, yeah.
right?
And Steve, did you have any thoughts about drainage while we're on this topic?
No, in talking to the landscape architect, all drainage will be conveyed towards the power line.
Okay, because we had heard that they plan to put in like a dry well to cover some of the new stuff over here, and you had the French drains around the pool. It sounded like, yeah, it sounded like you had people reviewing it and coming up with plans to accommodate it, which is the important thing. Okay.
So since the usage has changed considerably, did you give any thought to a smaller structure?
Ideally, what we're asking for is what we would like, and what we think that we need, based on everything that we've shared. So,
We're just going over all the stuff that we do have with just a little bit of garage space that we do have. I just think that the larger shed would be beneficial. I mean, could we get away with something smaller? I don't know. I mean, just looking at my 10 by 12 today when the doors blew open, I was like, oh my God, there's a lot of stuff in here. And it's just, we're gonna have more
we're gonna have
stuff.
more.
And we have, our garage is just full of stuff that we'd like to get out of there. So that shouldn't,
Did you happen to notice for any of the properties with the extra building also had a pool?
Let's think.
I wasn't there, so I can't.
Like the big property across from the baseball fields, they have a pool, but it's such a large yard that the pool's like way over, like it's not even in the same ballpark really, Let me think. The South Street House, no. Sunset, no. Jefferson Road, yes, they have a pool. And I don't think so, no. And I'm not sure about Steve's, because I didn't look at the aerial views. I
can't tell you which address, but there's one on my list that had a pool with a larger accessory structure.
Okay. Okay. All right. Where do we go from here? Any other questions?
I don't have any.
Okay,
That was my question.
that was your question. Maybe we should start with the lot coverage thing.
Close the public hearing first.
I think if we know we're gonna vote today, I don't know what we're gonna do. So I figure we'll just close it when we're ready to vote. I don't know if that'll be today or not. We'll have to see what everybody thinks. I don't know if anyone wants to look into these more or not.
I don't see the need.
So I think I'm satisfied knowing that there are other precedents for this and other
Right.
people are doing this.
Right.
Steve, do you know the 810 Washington Road is enormous? Do you know what that is?
No, it's just it's a building, but like I said, not a garage. It doesn't have I think it's just an extra, or maybe a small barn. I could only see things overhead.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I got a road view just to look down the driveway if it was a structure I could see from there, but no garage doors on it. Any other one that was a garage with a garage door, I wouldn't have included. We got one right over here at the canal lamp in next to the house. It's just a building with a door and some windows in it, so maybe a little, party house or something, I don't know. But it's not a garage at all.
Okay.
I want to make a little comment on the lot coverage, because you're fairly new here, but I don't know, okay, I did a survey in the village, and I calculated neighborhoods and lot coverages. There is not one neighborhood in this village that the average is under 29% impervious surface coverage on the property. A lot of the neighborhoods were up over 30% already. Our code says 25%. Literally, almost all the probably 4 or 5 properties in this village would have to come for variance to put anything in their yard.
Which is what happens.
Which is what happens, unfortunately. Yeah, so I was just looking at this, and they were applying for 33% gross impervious surface, and 25% is the limit. And we're well aware that there are many properties that are much higher than that. And the discussion we had last week, or last month rather, we stated that some of our concerns are what are the impacts on the adjacent properties. So we mentioned things like drainage and lighting and stuff like that. And it's drainage you've accommodated.
Yeah.
Lighting, you're not running any new utilities, so other than maybe some small landscaping lights.
Yeah.
Just do some ground lighting.
Okay, so I don't see how that's going to adversely impact anyone. So in terms of how this would impact anyone, I mean, my look at this is just the aesthetics of someone having to see it. That's really it. And for the impervious surface, I mean, that would be just for the shed. The rest of it is really not that visible, particularly in the summer when you have trees and leaves.
Yeah, I mean, and with the view, I mean, most of our neighbors, as you see from Ritz Parkway, they all have fences, so they're not going to be able to see what's going, in our backyard unless they're in their house on the second floor.
Yeah.
Because when the fences, and they all have fence, everybody's got a fence.
Everyone's got that, okay.
Except for our next door neighbor, but we have such,
The new one?
well, just the brush, or next, brush next door, they can't even see into our yard. So,
Yeah.
Kind of like a natural fence.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's.
Exactly. A lot of weeds that got bigger and bigger and bigger on their side. Turned into small trees.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. I had a bunch of other notes and thoughts, if we want to get into them, but by all means, if anyone else wants to speak first, go ahead. Silence.
I mean, the only other question, lighting wise, have you thought about, I mean, at night, if you're trying to get into the shed for whatever reason, are you thinking of like a stick up, like a battery powered?
Yeah.
I mean-
Like,
Yeah.
I
For
don't
the
know.
most part, I mean, if it's just.
We don't have any lights out for our shed now.
Yeah,
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I think we'll be okay.
you got this.
We could get a little flashlight
phone
or
out.
whatever, I mean.
Mag-
Got a little headlights too sometimes,
Yeah.
when she goes for a walk, she's got a little headlight, but that's pretty much what we use.
And I have a light on the patio,
Oh, that would be
so-
somewhat close.
Yeah, I mean, not really gonna do much for out there, but at least it's,
I mean, we're in bed by 9 usually.
yeah.
Know the drill.
Yeah, you have a little
Say
one.
Little
Yeah.
ones, exactly.
Our room's in the back, so we usually turn the lights off, kids go to bed at 7.
Everybody's like, what do you guys?
You guys go to bed at 7? We're like, no, we're
Pretty
in bed.
much.
All right, maybe I should ask you to make some copies of some of this stuff here. You got a moment, if you want to listen to it. Basically, here's something I did, which was, I actually tried, I wasn't sure what to do with this, to be honest, with some of these things, so I went and looked for some guidance. So I went and took a look at our historic design principles document, I looked at the comprehensive plan, looked at some of the zoning code, to kind of see what the language is in there regarding outbuildings and other things like that. So, and, I mean, I can just pass this around. This is something from This is what the architectural review board looks at. This is the only blurb I really found about outbuildings.
I can copy.
Do you guys like copies of some of this? Or you want to look at it?
Yeah, if it's going to be,
Well, I think we need to incorporate this. It's pretty short.
Okay. Then, yeah.
so then, yes. Okay.
Is there going to be a fence?
Yes, and then it'll go around the property, not just around the pool itself, but it'll do the perimeter of our property, on the property lines.
Yeah, that's like close for the pool.
Right.
So,
I'm just curious, does it ever matter how close the fence is to the pool?
I don't know if there's a code of how close it can be, to be honest with you.
Or needs to be?
Here, go ahead and make some copies of these.
So it just has to secure the pool area. So if you're securing the whole yard, it's the same thing as if you were gonna secure the deck or the area around the pool. Same difference, as long as it's secured in a 4-foot structure that's locked, that's what the code requires.
Is that all state building code? Or is that all state building code? I know our local code addresses it
It's
too.
actually international building code now.
Okay. Sure, I better make sure. Sorry about that.
Did you close the public hearing, Jeff?
We haven't closed the public hearing yet.
I'm just curious.
So, summarize here, we'll give some of these documents around, but I took a look at various plans, and I didn't see a whole lot mentioned at all about accessory buildings and structures. I found a few things that I thought were kind of interesting. So what I took a look at, she's copying it, but Historic Preservation Board's reviewed standards, that's our historic design principles. I saw very little mentioned in there about outbuildings. We'll show you in the section. Well, I can read this probably faster than she's talking. So the construction of outbuildings such as pool houses, garage, sheds, barns, or other structures should be compatible with the existing building on the property. In addition to the design features listed above, new outbuildings generally should adhere to the principle that they are secondary structures and should never overwhelm the main building or call overt attention to themselves. New outbuildings should be located behind the main building in a location that does not disrupt historic views or settings of existing historic buildings. And I think that's what you've done.
Yeah.
It's not.
We don't have anything historic by our house.
No, but anyway.
We're technically, we're in the village, we're in the outskirts of the village. I mean, I understand the language there, it's more like we're in the village.
So the point is, you don't want to build an 80-foot tall building that looks like a purple elephant.
right.
Which you're not doing.
Nope.
So you're building it's nowhere near the height of the house, nowhere near the size of the house. It's much smaller than the house. It's in the backyard. And it's not, you have shrubs around it, so it's not really prominently disrupting any views. And as we talked earlier, if you were looking for more storage, I think this actually sounds better than expanding your garage as far as aesthetics go, and the practicality of it as well.
And most cost effective.
Most
I think for
cost
us to
effective,
even consider a garage would be
We'd have to buy the next, we want the next piece of.
well
property.
over the cost that we're spending on this shed.
Okay. So the next thing I had here was sections of the comprehensive plan for the village. And this number 4 here is what they identified as medium density neighborhoods. And so I just copied the blurb that we had on what is the vision for medium density neighborhoods. And again, it doesn't say a whole lot. You guys want to take a look at this?
Why don't you read it, and then people who may or may not watch this can be informed as well.
Okay, well, I can read this. Let's see, I guess it's only like 2 pages. So the low density neighborhoods appear in light yellow The medium density neighborhoods are number 4, which you saw on the map. Both character areas are comprised predominantly of single-family detached homes and differ, however, in streetscape, building design, and density. Generally, the medium-density areas represent the traditional grid-like settlement pattern of the village, with older homes on smaller lot sizes than those found in the low-density area. Because low-density neighborhoods were developed primarily in the latter half of the 20th century, they exhibit suburban design features with larger homes on larger lots and limited sidewalk connectivity. And there's a comparison chart of typical low and medium density neighborhood characteristics that are provided below. Now, I think some aspects of your property are kind of pertinent here. The house was built in, I believe, 1955.
Yeah, 55.
And you're sitting on 0.45 acres. And I have a few various notes in here if you guys ever scribble around here, but you probably won't read them. So my math here was 0.45 acres is about 20,000 square feet. Now the district you're in, the minimum lot size is 9,000 square feet. And on the large density lots, it's 17,000 square feet. So you're, relative to the zoning, your lot is over twice as large as is required. And I'm kind of stating this a little bit because I know we've looked at some of these things before, and larger lots can tolerate larger buildings. We've found that before. So I think that works in your favor personally. Any other thoughts?
Yeah.
I personally don't think it will look, I think it will look, within the character, kind of like what you're saying. I don't think it'll look obscene or anything, you know what I mean?
Well, it goes back to what you were reading, and effectively it does not draw attention as much because it's not as big.
I got a couple other quotes I took from code. I guess I can just read them if people don't mind. Again, looking for some inspiration, kind of summaries of some of the districts. And they said, located at the edges of the village, the low-density residential district serves as comfortable transition from the higher-density neighborhoods near the village center and lower-density neighborhoods provided in the town of Pittsburgh. And then future investment in the LDR district should continue to contribute to the village's high-quality neighborhood environments and further establish well-connected, walkable streets, lined with sidewalks, street lights, and street trees. Now, you have a big prominent front yard that you're not touching. That's not going to change. And I mean, that's really where this is limited to. But this and some other things, I kind of see that the code is written and the theme is that there's some loosening standards for some of these newer properties out near the village boundary where that's kind of the suburbs, and more towards the village, the center of the village is denser, higher development, and things are a little bit different. So, and we've talked about this before, where that comes into that transect plan. I think Susan, you're familiar with that from the comprehensive plan. And looking at that, it actually said partly in the, let me see what my quote was. Oh, I'd have to read too much to find my quote. But anyway, basically it said in the comprehensive plan that having more suburban and tolerance for a few more modern and contemporary residential features is supported out towards the perimeter of the village where it was developed later. So the center of the village was developed first. That's where some of the older properties are and so on. So there's kind of a theme here of, depending on where you are in the village, some of the architectural standards, historic standards, there's difference. And right next door to you have the town of Pittsburgh. Like you said, everyone has stockade fences, and what you're doing would look right at home, right? The property's right behind you in the town of Pittsburgh. So I guess what I'm kind of saying here is, I mean, they found other buildings of similar size. I'm not really finding anything to really make me think this is strongly out of character with something at least in these areas.
Agreed.
I agree.
I mean, I'm kind of struggling with why to go with a shed this large, but I guess we'll get to that. But something, I can see the justification for something, and the absence of, I don't really see this as adversely impacting much of anything at all.
Well, and it's not only the area that they're in, but the placement in that area. there's only one neighbor, they're just looking at,
And the views from the side will be the short dimension of the shed.
exactly,
The house will block the view of the long dimension of the shed.
right. So I think there are some unique qualities, about this lot.
Yeah, I think that's where I'd like to go, is make sure we focus on the unique properties of this lot and this situation. So this is an appropriate thing with your constraints on this property. This makes sense if we approve this, rather than, oh, I want a big shed, I have no good reason why, I just want a big shed. Those are the ones we have a tough time with. So I think there's a lot of unique things here. So I want to keep focusing on kind of what's the vision here and what are the unique characteristics of your property. So at least that makes sense to me. And I'm not hearing a whole lot of objections here, so.
And you're getting rid of the little shed, and your big, you're only gaining about another,
It's 120 existing,
Right.
so we're asking for 288, so
Okay.
that's the difference,
Okay.
168.
168, yeah.
Yeah.
So it is a large difference from what code. You're asking for 288 and 120 is required, so that's large.
Yeah.
Right.
And your garage situation is pretty unique,
Yeah.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
yes.
in terms of
So, I
expansion.
mean-
If we were-
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference to
In
me.
the center of the circle, it'd be different, but we're right by the roads, and then
It's at a 45-degree
and
angle.
it slants. I mean, if it was flatter, maybe it'd be some one thing, but we're kind of, you've driven by it. It's just-
Okay, so you also have a notable hill in your front yard. It's also preventing you from moving.
Kind of side yard, but yeah, the front yard slants down.
Let's say the kids can do a little bit of sledding.
Yeah, I don't know.
When they were younger, they could,
Almost, they get in the road.
they will go close to the road, the sidewalk, they kind of slow down, but.
So both the front yard and the side yard being the vacant one, correct? That you're
Yeah,
referring to?
the vacant lot is flat,
But
Okay.
when we sit,
but we sit up.
and then as it goes behind our house, it gradually starts to get flatter. But it's still a little hilly, and then the vacant lot's totally flat, like we, told them that we wanted to buy it, but that was. But whatever, so we thought about getting a 2-car garage, but if you look at it aesthetically, I don't think it would work, and it's just.
I don't think there's any way to
Even
do
if I
it.
had like that much more, but I'm not gonna.
We're happy
Spend
in
that
that
money for
house,
this
we're
much
very
more.
happy in that house.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
It suits us, it's not
me out of body
huge,
bag.
but it's enough.
Okay.
There's some downsides, the yard is great, we love the additional space that the power line provides, which is wonderful for the kids to play, and, they like to throw the football, all that, it's great. There's a downside to the garage. It's, a family of 4 active people really could use at least a 2-car garage. We don't even park in there at all. So that's just our biggest problem with the house. Now, having this larger shed is going to, afford us more space, and storage and just usability, easily, like the functionality of using the pool, going in and grabbing a towel, whatever, going in and grabbing a pool noodle. It's somewhere to house all that stuff where it's aesthetically pleasing to us, and then in the off months, we, it's packed with whatever, so maybe we can get a car in. So there's a lot of thought behind it and hopefully benefit to us that will make us
Luckily, we
happier
don't have
over,
much snow the last 2
the
years,
rest
which
of
has
our
been kind
life.
of nice. I didn't have to
Granted,
break
the kids aren't gonna be
snow
home
around this year.
forever, but the
First time
pool will
out.
be there forever, for as long as we're there, so.
Yeah.
That's just that's our vision, our
Yeah.
goal, we love the house, we
Yeah,
love
it's
the
our forever
area.
home, we're not.
So
we're
just
there
trying to make
forever.
it work for us,
What's the square footage of the house itself?
The house itself is just under 1,800 square feet.
1798.
Trying to compare, right,
Something like-
I'm comparing like the size of the house versus the size of the
Shed,
structure,
yeah.
It's
right?
like a 7.
Yeah, plus there's a garage too. That's another,
Right.
300 square feet or something like that.
Whatever, I didn't even do the measurements,
13
somebody did the
24 or
measurements,
something.
yeah.
So it's almost 300.
Something about right, yeah.
Same size as your shed.
Right?
Well, garage is bigger than the
Yeah,
shed.
just a little bit more square.
And higher up, I would think,
Yeah.
too.
Okay, well, I guess maybe we should just start going through the criteria. That sounds good to you. I'm not hearing any major objections right now. I mean, I think everyone is kind of like, maybe the same boat I'm at is, so, well, doesn't sound like it's bothering anything, but how do we justify this, or what's going on? Okay, in our packet here, we had draft decisions, and we handed this to you last time, copy of this. I have a first one here, which is for constructing of the size of the shed. Just as a general question, I didn't have any particular concerns about the lot coverage issue. Did anyone?
No.
We've seen lots of those before. Okay. Okay, there's that. All right, I'm gonna rapidly run out of
I know.
space here.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just tend to
You want
have,
me to,
yeah, I think we're good with that,
Okay,
but
we're done?
I was wondering if there's any way we could get a higher quality copy to stay
Okay.
with the village.
okay,
Because a copy, I don't know how to do that.
I'll figure it out.
We'd have to send it out to get scanned, because we don't have a scanner that has all this, so if you do get a digital copy, just
Okay.
give it for your property file.
Okay. I don't think he has a digital copy.
So that's,
I think this is all hand done, and he said, if I have to make another one, it's gonna be like, he was gonna charge me over $300, so I was like, I'll just bring this again.
How about when your pool's built? You can bring it and we'll get it, when your pool's built,
We'll
we
give it
can
to
get
you.
it, yeah. We can get it scanned, yeah.
Just give us the original.
Yeah.
no, yeah, so.
We can get it scanned, but, yeah.
So it's important for the village to have records of things regarding this application. Because 5 years from now, someone's gonna say, what did they do?
Okay.
What did the board look at? And then it's like, oh, these are the plans that were before the board, that's what was built. Yeah, that's what
Then I'll
was
work
there.
harder at it, and I'll bring it to you guys.
I mean, even if it's with a camera that has decent lighting and you take a photograph of it, that would be
Okay.
great.
Okay,
But we've had issues before where people come in with drawings that the public has never seen before.
Okay.
They present it to the board, and they take it with them, and the public still never sees it. And sometimes the public is interested in these things. So we want it to make sure that we, keep everything we're looking at as available to the public.
okay, got it.
Should they ever question it.
Okay.
It sounds like no one's concerned about that,
I
but
got it. You want
we
to
kinda-
have it, just.
we try to treat everybody the same.
Okay.
So, the big projects, little projects, we need to make sure we get a good record of
Right, so
everything.
you kind of just want to keep it in our file, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay, the home's file.
Okay, so let's walk through some of this. I want to start with the shed size, because we've done, and I think that's what warrants the most discussion here. The lot coverage, I think we can get through, we can look at the last one we did for the pool and copy a lot of those answers. So the first question here, and this is whether it will create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties.
I don't believe so.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, well, not. And there are some of the things we talked about. Other properties have sheds and outbuildings of similar size. They're not common, but they exist.
You said the total was 288?
Yes.
So yeah, of the comps, it's on the lower end.
Yes.
Yeah, so some of the other properties are much larger. I saw one listed as over 1,000 square feet, or 600 square feet, 500 square feet, there's several of them. I took a look through the historic design standards, and it didn't, I mean, we were talking about that, we're looking at the comprehensive plan. None of them seem to have any, brought up any concerns for outbuildings.
Right, and as you said, this is on the outskirts
Outskirts of the village.
of the village, which has a more suburban character. So it's in keeping with that character.
I like how you put that. And it's also newer, it's a 1955 building.
Exactly.
And And again, that's more of a suburban character than the older pre-war buildings, which have different architectural styles.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're single story for one. Single story ranch as opposed to a single story cape or
Right.
Greek revival, something
Kind of
like
has
that.
low character to begin with.
We won't tell the house it comes.
Yeah.
Right. So it's such a neat, I love that little circle.
Yes,
Were all the houses built at the same time, or just?
roughly, yeah.
Pretty much?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, give or take
Ours
like
was-
a few
Ours
years.
was originally a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and then in the 60s, they put an addition on.
I
Uh-huh.
think
So,
they did the garage.
It used to be, I think there was a
and the
breezeway,
master.
and they
Uh-huh.
moved that into like a den, and then they put our master
Right.
bedroom.
I mean, so that lot next to you looks so graded. I was
The
just,
empty lot.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
just wondering if anything had been there. Or
No?
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's so flat there.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's
He's
a
had
lot
it
of
for
vegetation
over 50
there.
years, he said. Because my sister rents from
And
him,
that's
so I've gotten
actually-
to know him
Right.
a little bit and talk to him. And I'm like,
Yeah, no, he's
well, can we buy it? And he's like,
During
no, I'm gonna
COVID,
keep it for a
I-
little longer. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right.
Right. Mhm.
But yeah, he says he can, zone to get a residential.
House. And it's actually like 0.4 or something, I mean, it's,
I know, you could
Yeah.
put a house there.
it's the same, roughly the same lot, it's a funky lot, kind of, but.
With a big pine tree in the middle
Did you say anything about the view shed?
No, not yet. Did you have something you want to add?
Won't be here then.
Well, I was going to say, the prominent visual feature there are the power lines, which will always dominate the view shed. And I don't think a shed is going to make that more or less attractive.
of it. No,
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something unique here about this property, is you get the power lines behind you that dominates the
Yeah.
view shed. So the other things we said, it has relatively minimal visibility due to it being sited directly behind the house, and you have landscaping screenings on the property lines on the sides. So you can see it from behind you, but not so much from the sides.
Right.
And you're looking at the narrow sides of it from the side, so it just looks like a shed, a normal size shed.
Where would you have to be to see it from the back?
You,
Like, you mean the power lines or?
Under the power
yeah,
lines.
Ritz Parkway.
the-
And then, like I said, all of the neighbors that are on Ritz that kind of, they're probably, I'd say at least 50 yards away from us,
Mhm.
65 maybe.
Mhm.
They're almost perpendicular. kind of.
Yeah, and then, so then
Right.
all of them have fences.
Right.
They all have
So
these
nobody can
big
actually see.
wood stockade fences.
So what's the next thing after?
The shed would be just open area and then
Open
That would
area
be
and
power
then-
line
Ritz Parkway's
grass.
backyards.
Yeah,
Okay,
Which is,
just like all open space.
right.
So,
Which-
it's our
some of
property,
it's-
the power
yeah.
lines,
And
and then
we
those
mow it,
stockade
so-
fences.
Right.
Jim Boyce that lives down in Ritz, he mows it all the way down and then we mow it all the way kind of up a little
Yeah.
bit.
I've always wanted the helicopter ride, just to
Right.
put all the,
First time that when
Pieces
we're like, what's
together.
going on?
yeah,
You know that they come, they're like low, they are like right over the house.
Yeah.
It's incredible when they.
Well, they
Have you ever
check,
seen
I
the
think they
helicopter?
have like heat
yeah,
thing
yeah.
that checks the power lines, so
Yeah.
the helicopter comes
Right.
very low.
Well, I literally.
I was wondering what that was.
Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Believe me, the first year we lived there, we were like, what's going
I
on?
was like,
Yes.
I saw a helicopter really low, and I was like, what is
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so they're checking
Like
the power lines.
incredible, like it was
Okay.
like, wow.
But they know, those guys know how Pittsford is put together.
Yeah,
And talk about a job description I wouldn't want. Spend all day, 8 hours a day, flying 10 feet above power lines. You have any failure? Yeah.
Keep going, Justin.
Keep going? Okay. All right, so I talked about A, so let's go to B, which was whether the benefits can or cannot be achieved by some other feasible method. I think we can talk about the challenge of their property here with a garage and
Yeah.
other things. So I would say it cannot be readily achieved by some other method.
Yeah.
So we talked about the garage being close to the property line, being situated about 45 degrees to the property line. So if you extend it backwards, it would hit the property line. If you extend it
Right.
sideways, it would hit the property line. And you said going sideways and forward also are problematic because you have hills.
Oh.
And
But also
going
the
forward,
design feature would look worse.
yeah, the architecture would not look good if you carried it far forward as well.
No, you wouldn't even be able to get in our front door really if it came out that way.
So from the architectural and visual implications, I think this is more attractive than alternatives like expanding the garage.
Well, if I may, the other issue is you can't create more storage on this particular lot without constructing a bigger building.
Yeah.
And removing the other one.
Right.
And I don't prefer to have two out structures, I just prefer to have one, right?
But it wouldn't be possible, it sounds like it wouldn't be
Yeah.
possible to expand the
Right.
existing one.
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so we went over that. C, substantial, I think we gotta say this is substantial.
It is.
Yep.
So 288 square feet versus code requirement of 120 is a large,
Over 100% more.
yeah.
Yeah. You could say it's substantial, but, given the existing limited storage, it's substantial but not egregious.
Well, and we said they've addressed the impacts, drainage, other things. So the impacts, so drainage, you have screening the shrubs. So, I mean, all of the concerns are mostly mitigated. So the next one, is there any other comments people want to make about that one? About whether it's substantial? So it's big, but they've kind of addressed the concerns.
Yeah.
Big but appropriate.
The next one, whether it will have an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood. So again, we talked about drainage, they've accommodated that. I think it will not adversely impact the environment. Okay, I think we definitely have to say this is difficulty is self-created. And we usually just say this alone does not preclude granting an area variance. Okay. The next thing here is whether it is the minimum necessary to provide relief. And I guess my thoughts on that are that making it slightly smaller wouldn't make much difference.
I would agree.
I mean,
if it would still go over 120, but.
yeah, I mean, if it was 12 by 20 versus 12 by 24, I don't see the difference. So I think reducing the size would not really lessen the impact.
Right.
So the variance is the minimum necessary, is that
Yep.
correct?
So reducing the size does not significantly lessen impact, and this is what you've determined best meets your challenges that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? No. Physical characteristics of the property that are relevant to this. And this is something that I think is important to focus on. We already discussed a bunch of this. You mentioned the quirky garage. It's hard to expand.
Garage design.
You have a hill that's in the front and side. We noticed the house was a more modern house, 1955 house.
And on the edge of the village.
On 0.45 acres at the edge of the village.
A neighbor on one side.
Yeah, and vacant on the other.
Yeah, so
Power lines.
vacant on one side and power lines dominating the visual character of the area.
I mean, although we're right on the road, we do have a lot of privacy.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
It's
right.
kind of odd
Yeah.
the way our house is, you know, angled and everything, but we are right on the main road, but yet it is private.
It's nice that there's the actual
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
Slow it down.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
We love that little circle.
Okay, so I think we've come up with a number of unique features here.
You could say that circle, that neighborhood is unique in and of itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very quirky little
It is,
section of the
yeah.
village.
Right. So. There are-
Similar architecture across.
Yeah,
All the homes are
right.
That-
So
similar.
there, I can't think of other comps, really.
Yeah, so it has a unique character there, and this doesn't detract from that character.
No, it's coherent, right? There's a cohesion there.
Anyone else have any other thoughts about things we could add?
No.
Okay. Okay. I'll make a motion then that we approve the area variance for the shed size for the reasons discussed.
Second.
Member Hoffman?
Aye.
Member Shannon?
Aye.
Member Wilks?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, I'm sorry. As soon as I forget, Charlie Stroh.
All right, and now we're on to the next area variance for the lot
Do
coverage.
we need to close?
Oh, yeah, I suppose a public hearing. I'll make a motion to close both public hearings.
Is there any conditions?
Oh, conditions.
You're right.
Is that reviewed by the architectural? review?
Yeah, I think we should, thank you for bringing that up, Katie. That's on the second page, that's the last page here. I would place the condition of the architectural review board approving the plans.
And any time limitation?
I think that would make sense. So then we'll say this expires after a year if you don't build it. Is that reasonable?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And if you need more time, you can just come back and ask.
okay, I think we should be okay, that's plenty.
Do I have a second to close the public hearing? That was me. Member Loda,
Aye.
member Shannon.
Aye.
Member Halpin.
Aye.
Member Wilks.
Aye.
Chair Bleastra.
All right,
Motion passes.
okay. So we had the motion to approve this. I'll make a motion to amend the approval of the resolution to include two conditions. Condition 1 is the architectural review board shall approve the plans. Condition 2 is this will expire after 1 year if the shed is not constructed.
So 1 year from today or 1 year from the day we get the resolution?
Well, I don't think they're going to be building in February next year, so I think I don't think it's much difference. So 1 year
It's
from
a good idea
today.
to
To have a
articulate it.
particular date.
Oh, okay,
No
well-
future confusion.
Okay, sorry, 1 year from today? So then it would be, whatever.
A year from the date that you sign the resolution.
Sounds like Steve has a thought.
Steve, what are your thoughts?
Typically, your approval will expire after 12 months unless they obtain a building permit, and then they have another 12 months.
Yeah, most approvals do, variances don't. I think that clause of code excludes variances from that auto expiration, but do you want to, they do need a building permit for the shed, correct, Steve?
Yeah.
So you want to give 1 year for construction or 1 year for building permit?
I'd say
By
permit,
permit.
from the date we actually sign the resolution. That way.
So I have a question, if I can ask. So we still have to go to the historic board.
Correct.
So when would you sign the resolution? After they okay it?
Whenever we get our language sorted out, which would probably typically be our next meeting.
Okay, okay, okay. And we would have gone to the first meeting for the historic board, which is the 19th, I think, you
Yep.
said.
Mhm.
So,
And we, I mean, this time next year, you're not doing any construction in February or January or March. So, but it can take a while to get contractors lined up, I do know that. So, but if so you need to get, so I guess rewording this, I can't remember if we even voted on the amended
Do we vote on the
Conditions.
amendment?
No.
You're still
Okay.
working through it, you're working through the conditions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so the condition 1 is architectural review board shall approve the plans. Condition 2 is this expires after after 1 year if you do not obtain a building permit for the shed.
okay.
1 year of the date of the resolution.
1 year of the date of the resolution.
And if that becomes a problem, you can always come back to the board and ask them to extend it.
Okay. Okay.
And we pretty much have to extend it unless some circumstances have notably changed.
Okay. As long as everything goes well with the historic board, we plan on doing it sometime, probably like early summer.
Yeah,
Is our plan.
I've done a lot of stuff on my house, and I'm just trying to hire a painter. It's taken me over a year for the interior. So, stuff happens.
Wow.
All right, are we,
Okay, so I guess the motion's on the floor.
Has it been seconded? I'll second it.
Member Wilks.
Aye.
Member Shannon.
Aye.
Member Loda,
Aye.
Member Hoppen.
Aye.
Chair Felicia,
Aye.
motion passes.
Okay, so I have a few scribbles on. It'll take us a while to sort out the language and all of this. Now the next one, I'm gonna find a copy of our resolution from last time. Oh, it's right here, okay. So this was the lot coverage one we had for 37 Courtney Circle. Try to get through this one a little quicker. So do we generally agree that we can probably copy a lot of these answers from that one? Okay.
It's very similar.
Very, very similar. So the first question here was request, so this is for lot coverage. In this other application, we found it will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. And we found that the proposed pool in the application was consistent with other village residence pools and not out of character with the neighborhood. There is proper screening protecting the view from neighbors. The pool is planned for only the back of the property, making it non-visible from the street. There is consistency with the size and design of other residential pools in the neighborhood and in the rest of the village and other public properties. There have been no objections from neighbors. Further, the village building inspector has no drainage concerns because there is plenty of pitch. That's what we had said before. I think maybe the character of the neighborhood, we can also add the stuff we had from the last resolution on the shed, and then we can add some of this verbiage of the pool, but, I mean,
Identical.
it's nearly identical.
I think in that lot, the power lines,
I think that house backed up to the power lines too.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, it's definitely good.
Okay, so we'll merge the answer we gave for the last variance for the shed with this blurb on the pool. And, okay, there we go. Good with that? All right. The next one, the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other feasible methods. For drainage, you know, you can't achieve the benefits that you want for pool and shed and all that without exceeding the lot coverage. So there's no other options. The requested variance, we last said it was substantial, and I think we're at 33% lot coverage. And you said in that one, the impervious surface is currently, I don't know what you currently
I
have.
think I'm 25 currently, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so the last one was 40.2%, and that was found by this board to be substantial. And what the comment was, that alone does not require denying the application. I'm not sure if 33% relative to 25% in this village, I don't necessarily find that substantial.
I would agree.
Yeah, it sounds like based off of what you just did with the, or you did with the survey, everyone.
It's average.
It's consistent with the current lot coverage in the world.
Okay, so we'll say it is not substantial, and we'll say that similar lot coverages are common in the village.
Yeah.
Or substantially larger lot coverages. And the last time here, for lot coverage, again, we stated it will not have an inverse impact on the physical environmental characters. And we said lots in the neighborhood are similarly non-conforming. Lots in the village have a pool like the one proposed on other properties. Building inspector confirmed there are no drainage issues. There are no resident objections. Lastly, the construction will use pervious materials with plantings, which aligns with the village's sustainability efforts and further minimizes any effects of drainage. Is there anything not relevant from that?
Maybe the,
We can add the shed stuff too. So we can merge this one with the shed
yep.
from last time. Are you using pervious materials? I don't think they are.
I don't know.
Maybe strike the comment on pervious materials,
And the sustainability,
and just, I think that's not
the
necessary.
last, yep.
Just strike the whole thing, okay.
Otherwise, we're going to get a discussion whether a pool is pervious or impervious.
Okay, and then lastly, we said whether it was self-created, just like before. Yes, this is difficulty is self-created, but this alone does not preclude granting an area variance. Okay, and I don't have any concerns about placing conditions on lot coverage personally. Conditions on their approval.
Right.
Agreed.
We're going to talk about minimum necessary and the physical characteristics.
Oh, okay, thank you, Mindy. You're right, that's on the next page of here. So last time, we said that the proposal is the minimum that the applicant is seeking. The pool is of a reasonable size and comparable with other residential pools in the neighborhood and elsewhere in the village, and a smaller pool would not be feasible. That's what we said.
I think that's appropriate.
And we can tack on the stuff about their blurb about the shed from last time too. So that would be the pool, and then we add shed. And we also had physical characteristics of the property relevant to this. I would say we can add our shed comments that we have for. And the comments from last time were the plan for the pool on the property backs up to the NYSEG right-of-way and doesn't face a neighbor. There's plenty of pitch and drainage is not a concern. Plan will include plantings and screenings. Construction will take place in the back of the property.
Neighbor on one side.
Yeah.
I think we said most of that in the last one about the shed.
Okay.
So we'll kind of merge this blurb with the shed blurb. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Yep.
And the conditions last time we had was the work must be completed within 1 year of the proposed resolution. Do we want to do that? I didn't, for the lot coverage, I was less concerned, but that's me.
Maybe just to keep it consistent, unless we don't want to create that pattern. I don't think it's necessary, honestly.
The shed size is the one I was more concerned about leaving open if they don't build it. Lot coverage
You're
unless.
saying we get consistent with the shed language.
Shouldn't
I was
they-
saying leave it consistent with our prior one, unless we don't want to continue making a pattern of this.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, so is that what we want, leave it in?
Yeah, I think they should be connected. Yeah.
And this one was the work must be completed, so they must get a building permit within 1 year of the approved resolution is what I'm hearing. Okay. All right, and if that's the extent of our discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the area variance for lot coverage for the reasons discussed with the condition discussed.
Second.
Member Shannon?
Aye.
Member Wilks?
Aye.
Member Loda?
Aye.
Member Hopkins?
Aye.
Chair Lustra?
All right,
Motion passes.
okay, so congratulations, you're done with us.
Thank you.
And yes, we do go over everything thoroughly like we did tonight and make sure we explain all of our decisions. That's what we do. That's what keeps us out of trouble, and that's.
We know, we've been here before.
I'm just so happy, thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much.
you so much.
Yeah,
We appreciate
made
it.
us very happy.
Okay, well, thank you for your work on this.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how hard you worked on looking across all the other properties, but I did find that helpful.
Once you gave us that website, it was kind of fun. Because at first I was
Like
like,
a little
I
video
don't
game.
want to go snoop around people's yards, like I felt like, so it was nice, the website was.
Yeah, well, it's,
And
talk
Steve
to
was great.
Steve is able to figure that stuff out, and I look at that website all the time.
Yeah,
If anyone here is not familiar with it, I'll forward it to you.
very cool.
Should have sent your kids snooping around.
Yeah, right, go play, go play.
Go play. They'd come back, and, what did you see? I don't know. They're boys.
Okay. I think I've lost.
Enjoy it.
Thank you,
Yes, we are.
can't wait,
Right.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Okay,
Okay?
yep,
Good for
you're all
now.
set with us. Your next step is continue to work with the building
Okay, so,
inspector.
and then I'll work on
And
this, drop it off.
anything you can do to get us a copy of that, we'd
Okay,
appreciate it.
there's Steve's copies, right?
Sounds great.
Yeah, I
What
think
he
so.
pulled out, yeah, I'll put them back in your file.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, we have minutes and member items. I think are we okay with, if we're getting the minutes, if we ask for reports from Mr. Lake? We haven't had a trustee here in a while.
Yeah.
So, thank you for patiently waiting, Justin. Do you have anything you'd like to discuss about what's going on with the trustees? I know you're looking at some laws, and there's a bunch of things on your plate.
Yeah, we have had quite a few things on our plate. A lot of our time lately has been consumed with the budget process and the long-term capital plan. So we've actually kind of put some things a little bit on the back burner because of that. So an ongoing issue we've been looking at is the short-term rental legislations. There's still an ongoing moratorium for that. And we discussed our last meeting that we may actually extend that moratorium again to leave time to really get a budget in place by the end of the cycle. So we've also been looking at taking on some debt, specifically related to the South and Wood Street repaving. That's been a recent item. Definitely a couple of other things in the back burner as well, and happy to talk about anything that you want to.
Yeah, I think we've had a few discussions about short-term rentals, and I think when you guys get some direction on that, I think we'd be very interested in hearing where that's going to go. So if you get a draft of something together, I would suggest we'd probably be interested in commenting on it, or whatever other people thought.
I think that most zoning changes either are required to or should be sent to the planning board for review and recommendations.
I did just, I believe that a couple of meetings ago when I was here, Justin, I think you weren't here at that meeting, I also emphasized that I would really love to hear from the planning board with any thoughts they might have. I'll also bring up to the board of trustees that if there is any legislation that's considered, we should definitely reach out to the planning board too and get your opinions.
That'd be good.
Yeah, and right now, we're just looking at the finalization of the report from the short-term rental committee that we had appointed to weigh in. And so we don't have specific legislation that we're looking at, but I'll certainly emphasize, I'll write on the note now to have that sent to your board too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or anything else that you're curious about? I understand from the previous discussion that the lot coverage is still an issue.
Oh, that's an issue. But it keeps us a little bit busy. I mean, if you fix that, we'll have one meeting a year.
Well, I don't want to bore you too much and not have you convene for anything, but I also don't want to have you convene for trivial purposes, if it's really just related to the lot coverage being out of sync with what we've got in the voters.
Yeah, I mean.
Maybe they made that so that we did get to review things that shouldn't be put in, you know what I mean?
Well, I guess there's a couple theories, but I know when they were discussing code, a really prominent discussion point in code was to set the lot requirements so that you could not subdivide them. So they did not want existing lots being split in half and turned into multiple dwellings. So lot coverage is part of that, the lot sizes are part of that. So my recollection was some of these requirements are more just because of that and don't necessarily reflect the way the village actually is. I see whether there's other ways of regulating it, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't recall that being said that could be the case. I don't know. I did recall some discussion with rezoning that one of the intents was to bring more of the village into compliance with the zoning laws. But that doesn't seem to have happened in this case.
I don't see how it could.
No.
Yeah. Well, it's too late now.
Yeah, well, I mean, they can change the code, but, I mean, for me, I think these are on, there's been a longer list of suggested code changes, and it'd be nice to actually get to some of those, but I don't, for the lot coverage stuff, I mean, regulating patios is quite different than regulating building size, in my mind. They all get lumped together here, and someone wants to, and the impacts aren't the same.
Although I mentioned this at the last meeting, we, with one exception that I can think of, the corner of, was it Maple and South?
Mm-hmm.
We typically do grant these variances.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly, we are chipping away at anything green in the village, which, given the village's kind of rural, more agrarian history, that is disappearing. I think we should need to be cognizant of that. I don't think we want to have one application bear the burden of making that change, and now all of a sudden, we want to be more consistent with the code, but this is what we're doing. And I think given sustainability, given other environmental and habitat concerns, even though this is a pretty suburban village anyway, I think we just need to be cognizant of what we're doing and how out of step we are with the code. And maybe the code is out of step with us. My dream has always been a code written from a neighborhood point of view, so you don't start from non-conforming, that you start from this is how it is and this is what we like, and go from there. So we will always be at cross purposes, I think, with the code. So anyway, that's something that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think that makes sense, but I think the question is, how is it best regulated to control building? And setting this one metric of lot coverage at 25%, I don't think that's the right way to regulate it. So I think some new type of ways to regulate it would best capture what you're saying and be more enforceable, but I don't have the answers for that.
Yeah,
And
not with the template that the code has kind of imposed on this historic village.
Yeah, although I would kind of prefer taking patios and things like that out of it, but I think excessively large driveways aren't great, but excessively large buildings aren't great. I don't think pools and patios bother people so much, but.
These are opinions.
Mhm.
And I do think, like, who's championing, greenery?
I plant lots of flowers
That's right.
in my yard.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there is kind of a typical house with yard look,
Mhm.
and that's what we're chipping away at.
So if we made the percentage higher, then we could say no more often. We could,
I don't even know if that would be, if if that would be the right, right way to look at it. I would say, given this neighborhood, and kind of its character and the history of the village, what is appropriate for this neighborhood? So I think we have a quantitative, template that we are forced to work with that,
Is still able to reduce the green
Right.
print
it does, right,
based on the numbers.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway,
Yeah, I mean, how I've always viewed these is, if it's above this size, you gotta apply for a variance, that triggers it to come before us, and then we get to take a bigger picture, what are the impacts of this particular project? So is it being built close to the property line, is it bothering neighbors? So really, it's triggering an additional level of review. Have we really contributed, I don't know if that's benefited anything or not, I don't know. We've approved most of these.
Yeah, like I said.
And it's chipping away at the green space.
Right, right. That's it.
Okay. Thank you for your comment.
For whatever word. Mhm.
Any other comments for trustees? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all for your diligent work on this and your other applications.
Okay, thank you. So our next topic is minutes. So I figured I'd keep that first in case you decide to flee.
Well, thank you.
In that case.
Good night.
I'm long drive, so I'm heading out.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Good night, Justin.
Now, I get more and more disorganized here as the night goes on. So the first one, December 6th, was that the meeting I was not at?
Mhm.
Or is that the meeting where I just said recuse?
Yeah.
No, I gotta find these minutes.
Well, you made a motion, so I think you were there.
You were certainly there, you just abstained everything.
All right. We discussed this before. I think we're correcting it to add Katie to the motions.
Yes.
And there's a couple other minor things.
Oh, right.
Well, I will stay out of these since the rest of you did more of the discussion. So anyone who wants to drive the discussion on those minutes, please do. I'm still looking for other minutes here.
I think I'm a bit in your boat as well.
Weren't there just a couple
Yeah.
of changes that were,
So,
right,
just to change
Yeah.
the names.
right. So I'm good,
Yeah.
as amended.
Okay,
Make a motion to approve the minutes for December 6th.
Second.
You weren't at this meeting.
Oh,
No.
Thank you.
oh,
Second?
Thank
you second it? Wait a minute, do we have, I guess
do.
we were here, but we
Yeah, we were,
we abstained on a few things, but I guess that doesn't matter, does it? We're still at the meeting.
Mindy, right? They were
I'm sorry.
they were at the meeting, they just
Yeah.
had to abstain, yeah.
Yeah.
It was only member
Still-
vote.
So we still voted.
Yeah.
I was looking at MDRs instead of LDRs.
So we can still, we're at the meeting, so we can still say that these minutes seem accurate to us.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so your motion, Joanne
Right,
seconded.
Joanne.
Yeah. Member Shannon?
Aye.
Member Hoppen?
Aye.
Member Wilks?
Aye.
Chair Marisha?
All right,
Motion passed.
okay, here's the other minutes.
So may I ask a question about the February 7th minutes? This refers to an MDR district, but the published notices referred to an LDR district. What district is this?
This is MDR.
MDR. Mhm.
I can confirm that in my notes.
Yeah,
And just from-
yeah, you just talked about
Yeah.
it.
MDR.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, you should just be careful, that's all.
Mhm. So that notice came out first before these. When would that have been caught that the
It would
notice
have
was
been,
wrong?
it would have come, it would have been noticed at the time that it came out, because, I mean, the zoning district didn't change,
Right,
even though the variance application has changed.
okay.
So,
The other thing,
there was another typo in there, but we can talk about that.
there was one in the notice about the code section.
Right, I saw that.
I corrected that in the resolution.
Okay. It's 20.5. not
20.5, correct.
Okay.
You got that too. Very good. Wait, am I missing a page? One? Hang on. Okay. The last bullet on page 2 should say get relief, not relieve. Last bullet here.
I couldn't understand you. What'd you say, Justin?
The last, okay, so page 2, the last bullet at the top,
Mhm.
it should say get relief with an F instead of relieve with a V.
Okay.
You got that?
Yep.
Any thoughts? We're still looking it over.
Just kind of was struck by the, I mean, I mean, it looks like our minutes are getting shorter and just more action, just reporting the action. And this just struck me as being kind of a more detailed. That doesn't mean anything, but it's a much chattier set of minutes.
This one versus the previous one?
Versus what we've been seeing lately.
Okay.
Just,
Do you want to make changes moving forward?
No, I just wonder for consistency. I kind of like
It was-
shorter is better.
Me
but-
too.
Yeah.
This was more of a
I know.
application, and our previous meetings have been kind of more business. We've only done 2 applications at least since I've
Right,
been
right.
recording secretary, so yes, what you're saying is correct. We've just had shorter meetings. If
Then,
in the before me, if any predecessing minutes, I can totally shorten them up too. Yeah, it just depends on what the style is and making sure that all information is captured.
right. I mean, this was just an informational meeting,
it was an informational meeting.
right, and it's very detailed.
So,
Couldn't just
well,
say-
there wasn't, okay, so what you're saying is if we're not actually getting anything done at the meeting, but it was precursor to an ultimate approval, so it was reviewing an application, but we didn't act at that meeting.
We weren't really reviewing an application. It was
Yeah,
a,
you opened the public.
We opened the public hearing.
Okay,
So, I mean, I would agree, if we're not
Okay.
acting on something, it can
Right.
be short,
Right.
but I think it's important to capture a lot of details from our discussion, or appropriate details.
I think one of the risks in being so detailed is misrepresenting or making an error that's then recorded. So the more detail you have, the more likely we are to have misrepresented something or make a mistake.
or just kind of give something extra weight, or it's just proportion, I guess I'm asking about. Not that I object to it, but it was very noticeable.
Okay.
And does that open us up?
Well, we've had lots of detailed minutes in the past, but,
Yeah, we have, right.
and I personally like fairly detailed minutes, that at least summarize the key points of discussion that support key information we have. If it's not relevant information, yeah, it shouldn't be in there. But you're saying some of this you don't think is key information, is what I'm hearing also.
It's unlike what our minutes have been like.
Well, there was a big change in
Yeah.
how you did minutes
Yeah.
after Linda
Right.
retired.
Right,
And this is, this reads more like the Linda era minutes than the post-Linda era minutes. And, I think that you guys have had some conversations about how much detail do you want. I remember Dorothea was here once, and she was very much of the opinion that less is more for these minutes, for a lot of the same reasons that Katie was saying. I
My
mean, there's.
opinion is the only thing minutes needs to have emotions.
Right, and that's, that's pretty bare bones. So, and, Justin has said in the past that you like to have content in the minutes because you like to go back sometimes and review the minutes to see what happened and to see what, what the reasons were for some of the decisions, but you capture a lot of that stuff in your resolutions.
right.
We do capture a lot in the resolution.
And now you've got the YouTube videos that are available, which we didn't have back in the Linda era.
I'm never going to go back and watch the YouTube videos.
You're not even going to use ChatGPT to summarize what was done at the meeting?
Go watch the YouTube video.
Is that a thing?
Is that for me?
Is
It's an
that-
option.
I have not explored that.
Yes, we have explored that.
I did ask
I mean,
ChatGPT,
they're public meetings, there's nothing proprietary in there.
I asked ChatGPT to write a draft law once, and I thought that went surprisingly well.
It does some things pretty well, but you got to
As
be
a
careful with
base.
the legal stuff.
I wouldn't
because
adopt
it
it.
makes a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
It makes stuff up, actually.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, and, attorneys who aren't very diligent have gotten into trouble. Who submits a brief that they haven't site checked?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
really? But Susan is right in that this, and maybe the board, maybe it's not a discussion for today, but at some point, I think the board should give Alexandria some guidance
Yeah.
as to, where do you want to draw the line? It's going to be somewhere between, Dorothea's idea that only the resolutions go into the minutes and the Linda Habib philosophy, which is you essentially have a transcript of the entire meeting.
Right.
And, those are two extremes. They're valid, but, this board can decide how much detail you want in your minutes.
Let's think about it, but I do think consistency with, like, some minutes that are just transactional.
Do the alternates get any input?
Yeah, you're here. You are a real member tonight.
Yeah, you're real.
What are your thoughts?
I never know if I'm able to second think.
When you're sitting at this table, you can do anything.
Yeah.
You're just like one of the guys.
Perfect.
And girls. What did you want to say?
Oh, no, what? I mean, in my limited exposure to this, I kind of tread both lines. I appreciate the fact that it's helpful to have the reminder of like, oh, okay, that was something that was brought up. I forgot about that because like you, I probably would not watch the YouTube video. But from a legal standpoint, and going back to kind of risk management, it is nice to only do as much as you need to.
Right.
So that you can say, look, I said enough.
Right.
I didn't say too much.
Right.
So I can understand the legal risk concern to limit our risk mitigation here.
Yeah, and to just piggyback on that, I can't tell you the number of times that I have and other attorneys have taken minor comments from a set of minutes and blown them up in front of a judge to say, this shows that they were completely arbitrary because this is what they talked about at the meeting and this is how they decided.
Right.
So there's some very good reasons to keep it very short. And there are now ways that we can get the content back, we plot back.
Okay.
Without going through the entire meeting. I mean, you can ask, an AI tool to find every place in the meeting, meeting discussion where people talk about drainage. And it will, just pluck it out and summarize it for you.
I have no experience with that. That sounds very interesting.
That shocks me.
Why?
Because you're such a computer person.
I don't talk to the computer. I don't ask it questions, I tell it what to do.
Interesting.
Okay, right, so you're a programmer, got it.
Programmer,
Okay,
yeah.
yes, okay.
But no, I've been wondering about some of these tools and just observing, but I haven't had any training on them. I don't use them in my own line of work.
You might want to just play with them sometime.
I mean, if you had said that the application came in, for preliminary review or, and these topics were discussed, that would do it.
The only other thing for the February meeting that I wasn't at, that I think you might want to put in if you do a bare bones, is to notice that the shed exceeded the code requirement and that the applicant was asked to make an additional application for a second area variance.
Yes, right.
Well, the dimensions of it were uncertain, and Steve wanted to get clearer drawings before making that determination.
Okay. But that would be, even though it doesn't necessarily relate to this, it fills in a blank in the story. It's like, well, why'd you just leave it open?
Right.
Because there was other stuff here that was related to it that needed to be addressed.
Since you mentioned judge, I think you did.
We still don't have a decision on 5 State Street. I know, I argued that case the first week in August. First week in August.
30 days, right?
Yeah, 30 days. So September, October, November, December, January, February, March, it's been 7 months.
So we're still being recorded, by the way.
I'm stating fact.
Okay.
But thank you.
I'm just going back to the detailed minutes thing. One of the other things I like about looking at the other things is understanding how an application before us differs from a prior one. Having some details helps with that. And so if it just says you approved it, well, why did we approve it? I mean, the resolutions capture a lot of that pretty well, as you say.
Findings our finding, I think we're so detailed. So it's there.
It is there.
And it's summarized in a way that makes it easier to compare, I think, property to property, rather than the minutia of
That's right.
what
Ad hoc setup.
exactly the minutes discussed. But that's my legal brain, right?
Okay, so what is our direction for our secretary here moving forward?
Why don't I practice with a couple of drafts and then see if we can find a middle ground? Yeah, because this is just one that's come up. And if we want to see something different in the format, then that's okay too.
No, thanks for that extra work.
And just as a commentary, when I saw the draft minutes, I did add a few items. I added this overview section with the bullets, which kind of gave a summary of it, and tweaked a few wordings on some things. But, so I added a little bit, because like I said, I'd like it a little more detailed. If the board doesn't want to go that direction, then we'll see what she comes up with.
It's not that we don't want to be detailed, it's just like, where is it appropriate to do that? And I think the resolutions are so detailed, and that's what I think.
Okay.
And if you can share the minutes in a Word format, that would be very
Oh,
helpful.
outside of the packet.
Yes.
I got you.
Because I would have,
Tracks and changes.
yep,
Okay.
yeah.
And we've been wondering, again, we were wondering if we could get like a cloud document. We've been asking for a long time for
I know.
some cloud sharing of documents.
I know.
Like a Google Drive thing?
Well, your village email can connect to a OneDrive, and I can make you a folder on the OneDrive, your Village of Pittsburgh email. It's just, you have to go into you have to use that platform more routinely. So I don't know how often you guys are logging into your Village of Pittsburgh, but you would need to use that in order to do OneDrive.
Awful.
But you're talking about a kind of collaborative Google Doc style
Yeah, well, there's,
living document that can be adjusted by anyone.
by anyone can edit it, yes, all at once, that would be nice, but we also can't violate the open meetings law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that could be used for minutes, that couldn't be used for, and I guess just revising our resolution drafts after we've made them, but I think that's about it.
You're just editing.
Right, well, let's see where this goes in the next couple of meetings. I think we can
Okay.
work on a few of those components, so yes, no problem.
So my only, and I was not at this meeting, although I did try to see as much as I could on YouTube. My more specific comment on the minutes was the comment from Mr. Week, from the public comment. Because he started to get into about an issue about business signs and all of that. And
Right.
I would prefer not to see that in the minutes because it's not relevant.
Right.
And I don't want to,
Right.
yeah.
Yep, good point.
So the comment here, he later inquired about a lingering sign at a village unrelated to the meeting topic.
He was directed to reach out to the village.
So it's almost like the last two sentences.
Yeah.
Take out.
So that could be removed.
Yeah, I don't know what relevance, I mean, I think only the first sentence is actually really pertains to the application.
And are you okay with that change as well?
I mean, absolutely. Having to do minutes for 3 different boards, I'd rather get everyone's style. So yes, if public comment pertains to only the application and not a random rant about something else in the future, I am
Excellent way
okay
of
with
putting it.
that.
So, I mean, the reason why I'm asking is, I think it's reasonable for us to ask to tweak wording and to add stuff, asking to remove stuff that you put in as accurately representing the record. I think we need to ask you if you find that appropriate as well. This is your record.
I'm okay with it because we have this for detailed information about the specific meeting is available on the website. So I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, to remove stuff.
I wish more people would come to the meeting.
That goes in the category of be careful what you wish.
Just gonna say that, that's true.
We have had
Okay.
meetings where you would have said that.
All right, so far, back to the minutes, we've had a bunch of extra conversation. We were changing relieve to relief and striking a couple sentences from the Jim White comment,
Only keeping the first sentence.
only keeping the first sentence. Is there any other changes?
Well, I think that Alexandria offered to do a short form and to present it to the board, and the board is going to decide how much detail you guys
We don't have
want.
to approve this one tonight. I can,
So you want to rework them, or do we want to approve these and change things moving forward?
I think we should rework, not approve if we're ultimately going to decide on a different format, because then I think then we're not going to be consistent.
Yep, agree.
Great.
Okay, so you're going to rework it?
February 7th.
Okay, Katie, would you like to look over a draft of it?
I'd be more than happy to. I think more is probably strong, but yes, I would be happy to.
Okay, so I think you
In my
have,
spare time.
I know you're good at editing documents, and I think you have a vision for where you think this should go. So I think you might be a good pair of eyes to look at it.
So I usually try to finish the minutes the Monday before I send out the packet on Wednesday.
Okay,
So I can have a draft in the packet,
okay,
not editing them once they're in the packet until you guys.
Right.
okay.
So here's my suggestion. You revise these minutes, send them to Katie, Katie send them back to you, and then you send them out to the board.
That will happen, I just don't have a timeline for you yet, so yes.
Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're at all possible, able to put a weekend in between when you give them to me and when we need to
Oh,
have
okay.
them out, that is
Yeah.
helpful.
No problem.
Because my weeks
Yeah,
are.
okay. Anything else?
Just need a motion to close the meeting.
Okay.
I will make a motion to close the meeting.
I was waiting for someone here.
I will second.
Member Shamel?
I
Member Loda? Member Hoffman?
Aye.
Member Wilks?
Aye.
Chair Risco?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Yay.
All right.